I want to ask you a question that might feel uncomfortable. When did you last stand up from a chair without using your arms to push yourself? When did you last climb a flight of stairs without slowing down partway through, without that heavy, reluctant feeling in your thighs that makes you wonder when exactly this started? Most people over 60 assume this is simply what getting older feels like. The legs go, the strength fades, you adjust, you hold the railing, you sit closer to the ground, you accept it. I am Dr. Clara Smith, and I want to tell you something today that contradicts that assumption at a biological level. A significant portion of the leg weakness that adults over 60 experience is not the inevitable result of time. It is the result of 3 specific nutrient deficiencies that accumulate quietly over years, deficiencies that most physicians never test for during a standard annual visit that affect up to 43% of older adults without producing any obvious symptoms in the early stages, and that can be addressed with inexpensive, accessible supplements taken before bed. The reason the timing matters is not marketing, it is physiology. Your body does its most intensive muscle and nerve repair work during sleep, and if the specific nutrients that power that repair are not present during that window, the work does not get done. Night after night, month after month, year after year. Today, I am going to walk you through 3 vitamins, ranked from important to most powerful. Explain exactly what each one does inside your body, why the deficiency is so common after 60, and how to incorporate each one correctly so that your body can finally do the repair work it has been trying to do every night in an environment that was not giving it what it needed. Before we begin, I want to hear from you in the comments. How old are you? What vitamins do you currently take? And what has changed in your legs in the last few years that you would most like to address? I read every comment, and the answers I receive shape every video I make on this channel. Let us begin with the 3rd most important vitamin on this list, and I want to be clear that 3rd on this list is still profoundly impactful. For many people, it is the single most overlooked piece of the leg strength puzzle. Vitamin B12 does something in the body that most people have never been taught to appreciate, and understanding it changes the entire conversation about why legs weaken after 60. Your leg muscles do not operate in isolation. Every contraction, every step, every moment of balance and stability depends on a continuous, precise flow of electrical signals traveling from your brain through your spinal cord, down through the nerves in your lower body, and into the muscles that respond to those signals. That entire communication network runs on a system of protected nerve fibers, and the protection around those fibers is called the myelin sheath. Think of it as the insulation around an electrical wire. When it is intact, signals travel cleanly, quickly, and reliably. When it degrades, signals become distorted, slow, or incomplete. Muscles receive instructions that are delayed or muddled. The result is the weakness, the stumbling, the heaviness, the cramping at night that so many older adults describe. Vitamin B12 is the primary nutrient responsible for building and maintaining the myelin sheath. Without it, the insulation deteriorates, and after 60, the stomach produces significantly less of the hydrochloric acid needed to release B12 from the proteins in food. You can eat eggs and fish and meat faithfully and still absorb a fraction of the B12 you need, not because your diet is inadequate, but because the absorption mechanism itself has aged. The National Institutes of Health has documented that up to 43% of adults over 60 have low or borderline B12 levels, many without any awareness that this is happening. The symptoms develop gradually: tingling in the feet, numbness, stiffness in the calves, eventually the kind of instability when standing or turning that people attribute to balance problems, but which is often the nervous system failing to communicate quickly enough with the muscles that should be stabilizing you. A 2017 study published in Neurology followed 2,500 older adults and found that those with low B12 levels were nearly 3 times more likely to develop difficulty walking and had a 60% higher rate of falls compared to those with adequate levels. 3 times more likely to lose the ability to move through the world safely. From a vitamin that costs pennies a day. The reason bedtime is specifically important for B12 supplementation is not arbitrary. The nervous system performs its most active repair and reconstruction work during sleep. This is when damaged nerve tissue is replaced, when the myelin sheath is rebuilt, when the signaling pathways between the brain and the leg muscles are recalibrated and restored. If B12 is not present in adequate supply during this repair window, the nervous system has the intention to rebuild, but not the materials to do it. The night passes, the deficit continues. Not all forms of B12 supplement are equally useful for adults over 60. Because the absorption problem is in the gut, a standard oral pill or capsule that depends on gastrointestinal processing may not solve the problem, even if it contains a large dose. The most effective form for people with age-related absorption decline is methylcobalamin in a sublingual tablet, a small tablet that dissolves under the tongue and releases directly into the blood vessels beneath it, entirely bypassing the digestive system. Clinical data shows that seniors who restore adequate B12 levels experience measurable improvements in muscle control, nerve response time, and leg strength within 10 to 14 days of consistent supplementation in this form. The nerve repair does not happen overnight, but with the right nutrient present during the right repair window consistently, it happens faster than most people expect. If your legs feel slow to respond, if you experience tingling or numbness in the feet, if you have nighttime leg twitching or cramping that seems to have no clear cause, B12 deficiency is one of the first things worth addressing. Not because it is a dramatic cure, but because restoring a missing foundational nutrient and allowing the body's own repair systems to function properly is basic physiology. And basic physiology, when applied consistently, produces results that feel remarkable, only because the deficiency had gone unaddressed for so long. Now let us move to the second most important vitamin, and this one surprises people because they think they already know what it does. Vitamin D3 is known almost universally as the bone vitamin, the sunshine vitamin, the one your doctor checks occasionally in a blood panel. What most people do not know, and what the research of the last decade has made increasingly clear, is that D3 plays a direct and significant role in muscle protein synthesis, which is the biological process by which your body rebuilds muscle fibers after use. After 60, the rate at which muscles repair themselves following daily activity slows considerably. This is why you can walk around the house and still wake up feeling as though you did something demanding. The muscle recovery that would have happened automatically and quickly at 40 takes longer, requires more resources, and is far more sensitive to nutritional gaps. When D3 levels are low, this recovery process slows further. The mechanism involves specialized receptors in muscle tissue that D3 activates directly. When these receptors are stimulated, they trigger the production of muscle proteins and support the growth and maintenance of muscle fiber. When D3 is insufficient, these receptors go understimulated, muscle repair is impaired, and the progressive loss of muscle mass, called sarcopenia, accelerates. Sarcopenia follows a specific pattern. It begins in the largest muscle groups, the thighs, the calves, the glutes. The muscles that carry weight, generate balance, and make the difference between standing comfortably and needing to lower yourself carefully into every chair. The physical experience is gradual. Getting up feels harder. Stairs require more deliberate effort. Standing for extended periods produces fatigue earlier than it used to. The world does not close in all at once. It narrows incrementally in ways that feel like aging, but are in significant part a D3 problem. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism tracked older adults with low D3 levels through a supplementation protocol and found that those who received D3 before bed gained 19% more leg strength and experienced 34% fewer falls over 3 months. This is not a marginal improvement. It is a clinically meaningful shift in the physical capacity of people who had been told their weakness was simply age. The reason timing matters here is the same as with B12, but with an additional layer of specificity. D3 activates muscle receptors that are most responsive during the deep sleep phases when growth hormone is released. Taking D3 in the morning, as many people do, means the vitamin circulates during a period when those receptors are not at peak sensitivity. Taking it before bed aligns the peak availability of D3 with the window when muscle reconstruction is most actively occurring. There is also an anti-inflammatory dimension to D3 that is particularly relevant to the nighttime leg pain, burning, and aching that many older adults experience and normalize. Chronic microinflammation in muscle tissue is a genuine and measurable phenomenon in older adults, and D3 directly modulates the inflammatory signaling pathways involved. A 2022 study from Frontiers in Aging found that D3 deficient older adults had twice the rate of nighttime leg pain and significantly less efficient overnight muscle repair compared to those with adequate levels, and that supplementation before sleep reduced pain while producing measurable improvements in walking speed and balance over 6 weeks. 2 important practical points. After 60, the skin produces approximately 75% less D3 from sun exposure than it did at 30. This means daily outdoor walking, while genuinely valuable for many reasons, is not a reliable source of D3 in older adults. Supplementation is not optional maintenance for this age group. It is a replacement of a production system that has significantly declined. And D3 is fat-soluble, which means it requires dietary fat to be absorbed properly. Taking it with a small, fat-containing food in the evening, a few almonds, a small spoonful of almond butter, a bite of cheese, meaningfully improves how much of the dose actually enters the bloodstream. A dose without fat is a partially wasted dose. Most older adults benefit from 2,000 to 4,000 international units of D3 per evening. The precise amount that is right for your body depends on your current blood levels, which your physician can check. Always choose D3, which is the form produced naturally in the human body, rather than D2. And now the vitamin at the top of this list, the one I have found in 20 years of clinical practice to be the most consistently overlooked and the most immediately impactful when finally added to a bedtime routine. Vitamin K2. Not the vitamin K that most people have vaguely heard about in the context of blood clotting, which is K1 and is found in leafy greens. K2 is a distinct compound, less abundant in the modern diet, far less discussed in clinical medicine, and responsible for a function inside the body that is critical for both bone integrity and muscle health, in ways that most people have simply never been told about. To understand what K2 does, you need to understand what calcium is actually doing in the body of most older adults. The conventional understanding is that calcium builds strong bones, and that as people age, they need more of it. What is less commonly explained is that calcium does not naturally know where to go. It circulates in the bloodstream, and whether it is deposited into bone tissue, where it belongs, or into the walls of arteries, joint spaces, and soft tissue, where it causes stiffness, calcification, and pain, depends almost entirely on whether certain proteins are properly activated to direct its movement. K2 is the activator of those proteins. The most important of them is a compound called osteocalcin, which signals bone cells to incorporate calcium into bone structure. Another is matrix GLA protein, which actively prevents calcium from depositing in arterial walls and soft tissue. Without adequate K2, calcium that enters the bloodstream from food or supplements has no reliable direction. It accumulates in places that produce the symptoms many older adults experience and accept as aging. Stiff, aching joints. Hardened, less elastic blood vessels. Soft tissue that has lost the pliability it once had. The calcium was there, the direction was not. Beyond calcium regulation, K2 directly activates genes involved in muscle repair, a function that is only beginning to receive the research attention it deserves. A 2021 study published in the journal Nutrients gave older adults daily K2 and tracked changes in strength and functional capacity over 8 weeks. Participants showed a 21% increase in quadriceps strength and a 31% improvement in standing balance. These are the muscles that govern whether you stand from a chair easily or struggle, whether you feel stable on a sidewalk or uncertain, whether stairs are negotiable or daunting. A 31% improvement in balance from a vitamin most people have never considered taking. The relationship between K2 and D3 is one of the most important and least explained partnerships in nutritional medicine. D3 dramatically increases the absorption of calcium from food and supplements into the bloodstream. This is the function D3 is known for, but calcium moved into the bloodstream without the proteins that direct it safely into bone is calcium that goes everywhere, including places that cause problems. K2 is what activates those directing proteins. Together, D3 and K2 form a complete system. D3 moves the calcium. K2 tells it where to go. Taking D3 without K2, particularly over extended periods, can produce the paradoxical situation of someone whose bones are still thinning, while their arteries and joints are accumulating calcium deposits. The missing piece is almost always K2. K2 also activates muscle cells' ability to process and store glucose as glycogen, which is the fuel reserve that powers sustained muscular activity. In practical terms, this means muscles that have adequate K2 available overnight can replenish their fuel stores during sleep, which translates to legs that feel more capable and less fatigued the following morning. A clinical trial in Aging and Disease found that older adults supplementing with K2 showed improved glucose metabolism in muscle tissue and performed better on walking endurance tests, with less reported soreness and fatigue after daily movement. The form that matters most for older adults is MK7, the long-acting form of K2 that remains active in the body for over 24 hours, compared to the MK4 form, which clears more rapidly. MK7 provides more consistent calcium direction and muscle support through the full overnight repair cycle. A dose of 100 to 200 micrograms taken before bed, alongside D3 and a small fat source, gives your body the complete signaling environment it needs to do its most important repair work while you sleep. Now, let me show you exactly how to put this routine together in a way that is simple enough to sustain without thinking. 30 minutes before bed, after dinner has been digested and your stomach is settled, take your sublingual B12 tablet first. Place it under the tongue and allow it to dissolve completely. Do not eat or drink for a few minutes afterward to maximize absorption. 1,000 micrograms of methylcobalamin is an appropriate starting dose for most adults who have not been supplementing previously. At the same time or within the same few minutes, take your D3 and K2 together. A soft gel of D3 at 2,000 to 4,000 international units and an MK7 form K2 capsule at 100 to 200 micrograms. Have them with a small amount of fat to ensure proper absorption. A few almonds, a small piece of cheese, a spoonful of nut butter. Nothing elaborate. Just enough fat to allow these fat-soluble vitamins to cross the intestinal wall effectively. Create a simple physical cue that makes this automatic. Place the bottles next to your toothbrush or on a small tray with your evening glass of water. The habit forms when it is connected to something you already do without thinking. Do not rely on memory for medication and supplement timing. Use a reminder if you need one. These 3 supplements alone will begin changing the internal environment your legs experience during sleep. but there are 3 additional habits that work synergistically with them and meaningfully accelerate what you will feel in the coming weeks. The first is intentional hydration across the day, not just when you are thirsty. Thirst becomes a less reliable signal as we age, and mild chronic dehydration is extremely common in older adults without their awareness. When the body is low on fluid, blood thickens slightly, circulation to the extremities slows, and the muscle and nerve cells that need to receive the nutrients you are now taking before bed cannot absorb them efficiently. B12 cannot reach the peripheral nerves. D3 cannot distribute properly. K2 cannot direct calcium movement with full effectiveness. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Aging Research found that even mild dehydration produced a 14% drop in leg endurance and delayed overnight muscle recovery by several hours in older adults. The goal is not to drink large quantities of water at once, but to sip steadily across the waking hours. A glass approximately every 90 minutes is a practical and sustainable pattern. Stop drinking 1 hour before bed to protect sleep quality. The hydration you build across the day creates the internal environment in which your nighttime supplements can actually do what they are designed to do. The second supporting habit is the composition and timing of your evening meal. The body cannot repair muscle efficiently and digest a heavy, high-carbohydrate meal at the same time. When digestion is the dominant process during the nighttime hours, muscle repair takes a secondary role. A dinner that is high in refined starch or sugar also produces inflammatory signaling in muscle tissue that partially counteracts the anti-inflammatory work your D3 and K2 are trying to accomplish overnight. Keep the last meal of the day relatively modest in size and built around lean protein and vegetables. A serving of grilled fish, a piece of chicken, eggs with spinach, followed by at least 2 hours before you take your supplements and prepare for sleep. That 2-hour window allows digestion to wind down so that when you take your B12, D3, and K2 and lie down for the night, your body's energy and resources are available for repair rather than committed to processing a large meal. The third supporting habit requires almost no time, but has a measurable effect on how much your vitamins actually benefit the legs. 5 minutes of gentle leg movement before getting into bed. This is not exercise, it is circulation activation. When you gently engage the muscles of the lower legs, calves, and thighs in the minutes before sleep, you increase local blood flow to those tissues. That elevated circulation makes the muscle and nerve cells more receptive to the nutrients arriving from the supplements you have just taken. The delivery mechanism improves. The absorption is more efficient. The repair that happens while you sleep is more thorough. 10 seated leg extensions. Slow ankle circles in both directions. Heel raises at the side of the bed. Stand briefly, raise your heels 10 times slowly, then sit. That is the entire routine. A 2021 study published in Geriatric Rehabilitation found that older adults who performed 5 minutes of light leg movement before sleep showed a 22% increase in overnight blood flow to the lower limbs, reported fewer cramps, less morning stiffness, and measurable balance improvements within 10 days. Not because the movement alone produced those changes, because it prepared the tissue to receive the nutrients that then produced them. Stack these 3 supporting habits: steady hydration through the day, a lighter evening meal with a gap before supplements, and 5 minutes of gentle leg movement before bed, alongside your nightly B12, D3, and K2, and you create the conditions for overnight recovery that your legs have not had access to in years. Results are not instant. Nerve repair from B12 restoration takes 10 to 14 days to begin producing changes you can feel. Muscle repair acceleration from D3 builds measurably over 3 to 6 weeks. The calcium regulation and muscle activation effects of K2 accumulate over 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use. This is not a supplement you try for 4 days and then judge. This is a nutrient restoration program that your body responds to over time, the way any depleted system responds when it finally receives what it has been missing. What I want you to take from today is not simply a supplement list. I want you to take an understanding. Leg weakness after 60 is not one thing. It is a converging set of deficiencies. The myelin degradation from B12 insufficiency that frays the communication between brain and muscle. The muscle protein synthesis impairment from D3 depletion that slows recovery from even ordinary daily movement. And the calcium misdirection and muscle activation deficit from K2 absence that both ages the blood vessels and prevents the overnight muscle rebuilding that should happen naturally. When all three of these deficiencies exist simultaneously, and the research suggests they frequently do in older adults, the experience of that convergence feels exactly like what aging is supposed to feel like. Heavy legs, poor balance, difficulty with stairs, cramps at night, the gradual shrinking of the physical world as confidence in the body erodes. Most of it is not aging. Most of it is nutritional absence in a system that still has the biological capacity to repair itself if it is given what it needs. Please leave a comment below telling me which of these 3 vitamins you were least aware of before today. And tell me what has been happening in your legs that you most want to see change. I will be reading every response. If this video gave you something meaningful, please subscribe to this channel and share it with one person in your life over 60 who has been quietly accepting leg weakness as their new normal. What you share today could genuinely change what they experience tomorrow morning. Take care of yourself. I will see you next week.